This day began with a dramatic early morning raid and arrest of Donald Trump's longest-serving advisor, Roger Stone. Mueller indicting him for obstruction, tampering, and lying about the efforts to get Clinton's stolen emails. Serious charges. This is the first indictment of a Trump associate directly involved in the Clinton emails that Russia stole. And unlike every other Trump associate indicted by Mueller, Stone wasn't quiet today. He came out in front of a Florida courthouse to defiantly address the charges against him, proclaiming his innocence. And as this scene captivated the nation, Donald Trump picked this day to cave on the shutdown, agreeing to temporarily reopen the government without a single dollar for the wall. Now, tonight, we'll go through all of this with some of the best experts available. Here's the first thing to know. The Stone indictment is not like any we've seen thus far. Roger Stone isn't like any of the other people charged, and Bob Mueller knows it. So he has his reasons for pressing forward with what looks to be a very public rhetorical brawl. Stone posted his $250,000 bond and then seized the moment right here. You see it, channeling his old boss, Richard Nixon, waving his arms in a victory salute in front of the courthouse. It's exactly the kind of spectacle that Mueller would expect from a defendant who's literally tattooed Richard Nixon's face on his back. Today, Stone attacking the probe, declaring his loyalty to Trump, and then he fit in an apparent pardon pun for good measure.
If you were convicted, do you think the president will pardon you?
Pardon me?
If you were convicted, do you think the president would pardon you?
The only person I've advocated a pardon for is Marcus Garvey.
How strong is your allegiance to President Trump?
I am one of his oldest friends. I am a fervent supporter of the president.
How fervent? Consider that the actual chair of Donald Trump's campaign, Paul Manafort, of course, the former business partner of Roger Stone, has never spoken at all after his indictment, let alone to praise Trump on the courthouse steps. Manafort was back in court today, quietly. Now, these charges also tell a different story of anyone else that's been charged by Mueller. Stone has 7 counts on obstruction, on lying, called false statements, and on witness tampering. But the things he lied about and tried to obstruct and kept other witnesses from talking about potentially tell a very powerful story, and it's one that Bob Mueller wants you to know tonight. Unlike any other Trump associate charged thus far, the lies relate directly to emails that Mueller says the Russians stole. Let me show you why this matters. The other indicted and guilty Trump aides face crimes that were certainly serious, but not related to those leaked emails. Now, the Russians Mueller already indicted, they were accused of crimes explicitly related to stealing and distributing those leaked Clinton emails. And here now tonight, right in the middle, Mueller charging Stone for crimes, this is important, you see it up here, related directly to those leaked emails. Indictment spells it out. June and July 2016, Stone telling senior Trump campaign officials he had information indicating WikiLeaks had these documents whose release would be damaging to the Clinton campaign. And then, we do know the rest. WikiLeaks started releasing the stolen DNC emails July 22nd, 2016. And for the first time, I can report this to you. According to Bob Mueller, a senior Trump campaign official then was directed, I repeat, was directed to contact Roger Stone about additional releases and whether damaging information WikiLeaks had on Clinton. Tonight, we don't know who that campaign official is. We don't know who was powerful enough to direct them to contact Stone. Mueller may certainly know, but doesn't say. I can report for you that Stone thereafter told the Trump campaign about, according to Mueller, potential future releases of damaging material by WikiLeaks. That looks bad. The narrative there, if you want to understand what we're hearing from Bob Mueller in what is famously called a speaking indictment, is that Roger Stone lied about efforts to get stolen emails from the Russians, and the Trump campaign was in the loop. That's the bad news for them. Now, what's the other news that you need to know? Fairly, Mueller is not in this indictment alleging a formal election conspiracy. He's not alleging in this indictment knowledge by Trump himself. That could ultimately benefit Donald Trump or the Trump campaign officials or the White House. But for the first time, Bob Mueller is alleging, I can't repeat it enough, if you remember one thing from our reporting tonight, Bob Mueller is alleging today the Trump campaign was in the loop about Roger Stone's efforts to get illegally obtained dirt on Hillary Clinton from WikiLeaks that went all the way back to Russia. And someone was directing senior campaign officials about staying in that loop. Wow. All of this is the kind of thing that a White House, which we've reported and documented, lies a lot. But even the folks who do a lot of lying had to shift today on how they describe this, from no collusion to none that involved the president.
You have the campaign chair, who will appear in court today. You have Michael Cohen, who was a political advisor and someone who worked at the Trump organization, under indictment. You have Gaetz as well, and you have Roger Stone,
under
who's a long
indictment
time.
on businesses that had nothing to do with the president. Let me make one thing clear, John. The president did nothing wrong. There was no collusion on his part.
The end of that statement. There was no collusion on his part. Not there was no collusion anymore. Apparently, they're done with that. There was no collusion on his part. Tonight, I can tell you that may be the most suspicious denial we've heard yet from the Trump White House. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.